So in Raphael's original, the two central figures, Plato and Aristotle, depict two somewhat competing points of view or ideologies of Raphael's day. Plato has his arm pointed up, representing the ideals. If you know, then you will do, whereas Aristotle is holding his hand down, gesturing toward the earth, focusing on a more realistic earthbound view. Now in our painting here, we've expanded the central figures so that we have four central figures. We have a skeptic, full of doubt, the modern era. We have now the idealist, pointing up as Plato was. We now have a female office worker, she's the realist. And now we have over here the pragmatist or materialist, and he has coins in his hand, which are not really rendered yet. So we've expanded four competing philosophies in the modern era. And in the current painting, we've expanded the two central figures, or the two central ideologies, into four. We have over here the skeptic, which of course is a very strong dominant point of view of the 20th century, skepticism. Now, again, we have the idealist, we have the realist, but we've also added a fourth figure in addition to the addition of the skeptic. Now we have a pragmatist or a materialist, and in his hands are going to be some coins, which will show a little better in the larger painting. The four central figures also have four different hand positions, which we thought were very important to describing their points of view. Of course, the skeptic, both his body language and his hands are asking the question, does it really matter? The idealist, we're bowing to Raphael's, he's still holding his hand up in the air. As is the realist, she's holding her hand out, as Aristotle was. Now the pragmatist, or the materialist here, he's counting his money. He's also sort of shielding his money from the others, and sort of cautiously looking over his shoulder at the remaining figures. So again, this is just a sketch. Although we've done a lot of preliminary work even to get just this far. For example, most of the figures here had to be photographed, actors in costumes. In fact, let me show you some of the costumes that we used on this project. This is some of them, and you'll notice there's a whole bunch of ancient costumes. For example, this is the costume we used for the poet, and on and on. As a matter of fact, this weekend I'm going to the Renaissance Festival to see if I can find me a Shakespeare. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, we've had to capture the likenesses of a whole range of historical as well as 20th century notable people. That's involved doing a lot of photo reference searching. This is my photo file, and what we've done here is I've tried to keep it in alphabetical / numerical order. And if I just whip one out here, for example, here's some of the reference for Bach here, and number 15. I have to make sure I put it back in number 15.
Could you hold it up?
Here's the beginning of Shakespeare. Okay. As I said, I have to find additional reference, so I thought before I went and purchased the costume, I'd go to the Renaissance Festival and see if I could find someone already dressed up that way. And here's some of the reference for Mother Teresa. And Abraham Lincoln. Came across a gold mine of reference material for Lincoln because, of course, Lincoln was photographed but not in color, and most of the photographs of Lincoln are also pretty low quality. But on the net, I discovered a whole range of photographs of wax sculptures of Lincoln. In fact, there were a whole number of wax sculptures of notable people from history. So they help supplement the actual reference with additional information about color, texture, etc. So the painting is finished. It'll be scanned digitally at a very high resolution, and then it will be used for 2 different book covers. How's that going to happen? Well, we're going to crop in on the central section for one of the books, just the central figures here. And then for the book on leadership, we're going to focus only on this front corner, which, as we said earlier, I'm going to drop a bunch of these figures down and make the front group larger and the back group unfinished on purpose. You notice that President Obama here is the central figure, which will go on the cover of the book, The Goodwill Leader. And then the 4 central figures, and extending all the way across the ancients here to the end of the painting, that will be used on the book Priority Thinking. The front central area of the cover will focus only on the 4 figures, and then the rest of the figures will actually wrap around the back, the binder in the back of the book. So then if you can just imagine this sketch, once we finalize some of the details over here, I'm going to transfer the basic information onto this large board, and then once the painting is finished, I'll actually transport the whole thing to a high-end art photographer that's here locally in Rochester, and they'll photograph it, or rather scan it, and then the digital manipulation will happen with the publisher.